I would like to invite Bas to come up and begin his presentation. Thank you.
Most of all, thank you for coming here at the end of a busy day. I just know that you also sort of like already think a little bit about being home. When you are with your family and your friends and you talk with, your kids or your father, your mother, and you talk about all things that are going great in this world. Sometimes you read the news and then you see all those horrible things that are happening in the world. You read about an accident in a mine in Peru, 200 dead. You read about an oil spill. You hear about the elephant getting extinct or the tiger disappear. All kinds of horror stories about pollution, and you talk about it, then of course you're appalled. You say, well, this is, and you're really, as a human being, you think, hey, in what kind of world are we living? Yet, then on Monday morning, same thing. You say, oh no, but now I'm an employee, so I should actually say, is it profitable enough to invest in sustainability? Can we wait a few years? What do the others do? When you work at a bank, you might also say sort of like, sustainability, it's nice, but it is okay to also have your human values, to bring them to your office, to bring them to your work. It's okay to be a human being when you are at work as well. Because you can, in your position with a bank, with a government, with a company, you can actually do something about it. That does not mean that you are working against the values of your company. It is indeed becoming more and more evident that consumers, people, are increasingly interested in the world that lies behind the product or the service they buy. And apart from the price and the quality, as always, but now they also want to know how and where and by whom the product has been produced. It was 13 years ago, this quote. It's still there. It was not a fashion. You hear about sustainability everywhere where you go. I was talking about quality and price and those other issues. I mean, the boycott of McDonald's was not because the hamburgers were not good anymore. Shoes of Nike, they were not considered to be too expensive or whatever. Normally it is not about price and quality. Normally it is about other issues. In this world of social media, internet, increasingly transparent, you can, as a company, you can run, but you can no longer hide. People, wherever they are, can see exactly what you are doing, and of course sometimes things go wrong and people will see it and they will demand action. That is, in a way, is easy. At the other hand, it's very complex, because when you think about what those people are demonstrating against, it's actually, collectively, it is about the impact of their own behavior, about the unwanted consequences of their consumption patterns and production patterns. It creates a feeling still of us and them, but as I said, it is a bit more complex. It is not so that they are destroying our planet and that they keep other people in poverty, etc. We are all in it together. Are you convinced?
Yeah, I'm convinced that sustainability is surely a fact, for the simple reason that if the planet has to survive, the impact and conditions across the globe.
Recently, we read in the papers that there are now 7 billion people on the planet, and I guess some of the resources that we have are limited. So at some point in time, there's not going to be enough for everyone.
And of course, if you as a society do not manage natural resources in a clever, in a smart way, yes, then it becomes a problem. What is the root cause of unsustainable situation on the earth? More people, and more people means more needs. More needs means more products. Products have to be produced. And how are products produced? using resources. But resources are getting scarce. Maybe not always physical, but sometimes you have resources that, for instance, critical metals, that are maybe not in quantity are very scarce, but they are in difficult countries, so that there can be a political risk when a country would stop the supplies. Prices, of course, I mean, resource scarcity leads to volatile prices, and that's not good for business, that's not good for investments. You want to know a little bit about what resource prices are doing. Obviously, environmental and health challenges, I mean, you have to mine deeper and deeper, and with all its environmental impacts, with social impacts, health challenges. So take it for granted, it's a fact that resources are getting scarce. And that indeed, the 7 billion was already mentioned there. Is it something to celebrate or is it something to worry? I think it's not to worry, but you have to make sure with efficiency measures that those 7 billion people and maybe more can have access to basic needs coming from a consumption society, which is predominantly motivated by consumption, wishes, preferences, to a responsible society. So here you have just one ordinary consumer. She wants to dress in the nicest clothes, drive a great car, talk on the latest mobile phone, and watch my brand new DVD. Is there something wrong with that? Who says there is something wrong with that? A couple of examples of needs. I mean, I talk about needs, you can also say, of course, greed. I mean, the famous quote of Gandhi, who said, the world has enough to meet everybody's needs, but not to meet everybody's greed. That's a concept. I don't know, maybe when the mobile phone had been invented in Gandhi's time, I think he would say that's a greed. But now, I mean, it's changing the concept. I would say mobile phone is close to a need.
I agree with that fact that you should have a limits to your needs, and anything in excess will actually be a greed. So,
okay. So everything in excess is a greed. So now let's go to the left side of the picture. Actually, this is also true, I think. I mean, if I would ask you, do you like to end poverty, stop violence and racism? Would you like to get rid of pollution? Do you really believe that everyone should be equal? Is there anybody among you who said, no, come on, you know? So now the interesting thing for policymakers of these pictures, because you have already seen it, of course, those are not two consumers. It's one and the same. That is the interesting thing. We are all saying this and thinking this. Actually, somebody last said you should reverse it. We are saying this and thinking that, yes. So what this picture says is to have all those products is not a sin, you know. We are not guilty of wanting, I mean, in moderate quantities, right? Wanting to have what those products give to us, the quality of life that those products give to us. The fact that by our collective behavior, the quantity of all of it and the way they are produced, that it leads to problems such as in a little cloud. I mean, are we to blame for that, we as consumers? So this, forget it, as policymaker or UN or whatever, you cannot stop it. But should we then say, okay, so let's then give up, you know, on those ideals. Let's have those ideals in declarations and summit statements, but that's it. Is that the choice? Is that a choice? Who says yes? You have to choose. Or who sees the middle way? Can you achieve those two goals at the same time?
I think there's a middle way possible. Even when I have a car, it's not there's no rule that I have to drive it every day to the work. Provided there is ample support in terms of public transport.
Okay, so you say responsible use of your car, and if it's not necessary to have a car, then public transport, but then public transport has to be there, right?
So I think if you want to have both, there are sort of innovations, underlying technologies and mechanisms whereby you can have both. They might initially be a little more intensive in terms of investments, but eventually in the long run, not only they're economical, but they're also sustainable. So if you
it's not consuming less, it's consuming better, differently, more efficiently. And for that, as a consumer, you have, of course, a little bit of power, the power of your shopping bag, the power of your money. But you need, for responsible consumption, you need that the producers come to the plate and offer better products, better services, and of course also the government with. Now the point is sometimes that as a consumer, you really want to choose a better product, but you don't really know about the impacts of the product. This is of course something that most people only buy once, a wedding ring. I mean, a wedding ring, 7 grams is nothing, right? I mean, it has a huge symbol, of course, but a huge value, but 7 grams. Not everybody knows that behind, the world behind that wedding ring, in order to make the wedding ring, you need 2,700 kilo of raw materials. So then you are really giving something to your bride, right? I don't know if you have heard about the term decoupling. So what you do is normally when you have your GDP, normally resource use and environmental impacts are sort of going hand in hand. With decoupling, you try to get the resource use trend downwards. That is absolute decoupling, or at least not increasing with the same extent as GDP. You can do that with resource use, and even better, of course, having more GDP with less environmental impact. For the hardware for consumption behavior and the software. Hardware, the gentleman over there already said it, hardware is the products, the infrastructure. Of course, governments have to make their regulations, taxes, awareness, information campaigns, etc. It's up to business to produce those better products and services and produce better information. And then the individuals can consume differently, do good every now and then, would be nice, and every once in a while just stop and maybe feel happy. I mean, everybody can do his bit. Then 5 years ago I would stop here, but now with the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and etc., for an individual, wherever that individual is, it's now also possible to start a movement with a global impact. But, maybe I'm too small to make a difference. Why should I bother? Well, maybe you're not too small, because you are with many. It's a swing project in Bolivia. I mean, how did I contribute to that swing? Not through NGOs or governments or whatever, no. You have a couple of websites, and they have ideas, and as an individual, wherever you live, I live in Switzerland, you say, hey, this is a project I like, because the poor, it's in Bolivia, a very poor country, the poor do not only need food and shelter, no, they also need fun, right? So it's also a light project, it brings some smiles, etc. To give microloans directly through the website to others. Then, of course, there's again this trust factor, because can you trust any website? No. So there's still good business for you as well to do it better than the individual. But just know that actually in the whole service sector there is now also a shortcut to sustainability. So if you don't, your customers will perhaps do it themselves. I said, well, do not wait for the others to do it. It's not them and us. Do not wait for the governments. Do not wait for business. You can also do a lot of that yourself in the working place, just to remain a human being. Be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you.